Can I interest you in everything all of the time? Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome back to the show, to the channel, Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. Hope you're doing well, friend, dear sweet viewer. I really do hope that, mate, yes, English, and welcome back to Chelsea News, ooh, the daily series. Here on the channel, where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea, giving you my opinion on it, more importantly, asking for yours, mate, and there's a lot popping off. People are angry. People are frustrated. Tuchel is angry and frustrated. Fabrizio Romano citing that he wants more players, defenders, and indeed attackers, mate. Updates on Colwill, Breuer, guess who? Jules Koundé, and also apparently Chelsea are looking to hijack a transfer that's PSG. Mukiele, I believe it's pronounced. Lots to get into, of course. So, settle in, get comfortable. Thank you for dropping a like on the video. It's a good way of showing your support of the content by a simple click. You are welcome to subscribe if you choose to do so. You know what to do, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You hit that sweet, sweet bell, baby. Let's get into it. Alright, cool. We are going to look at some stuff today. First of all, before we talk about Colwill, before we talk about the youngsters, before we talk about Thomas Tuchel's general stance in wanting more defenders and attackers, let's talk about how reportedly Chelsea are looking to hijack, because hijack is the buzzword of this transfer window. Mukiele deal. Of course, Paris Saint-Germain are trying to buy the defender. After a full verbal agreement with PSG was made, Chelsea jumped into it before it was signed. Chelsea wants to include Werner in the deal. Werner, of course, back to RB Leipzig. Maybe this is I'm reading this from Cy Phillips' Twitter, but it's coming from Santi Auna. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. He's a journalist for Foot Mercato. Followed by a lot of people. Maybe this guy is reputable. Let me just quickly show you some details of this player. He is a defender with 1 year left on his contract. Therefore, it will be a really reasonable deal. I was hearing, I can't remember who speak about this, but it's, of course, Luis Campos is now at PSG, the once sporting director of Monaco, who won Ligue 1 with Monaco. There's PSG, apart from the Mbappe deal of just ridiculous money, they're looking to make intelligent, smart, cheaper signings, and he would represent one of those. This is some data from him here. He's aged 24, so he's a really good age. France international. He's a defender, a right back. He's right-footed. Of course, he plays for RB Leipzig. He had a great FIFA card. His contract expires next season, or the end of next season, or the end of this season, upcoming season, and therefore he is, good value. 18 million. This is saying here on Transfermarkt. As you can see there, he can play as a centre back. He can play as a right back. He can play as a right midfield, which would insinuate, ladies and gentlemen, he is good as a right wing back. Now, is this instead of Jules Koundé? Because we speculated that Jules Koundé is the natural successor, the natural replacement for Cesar Azpilicueta as a right centre-back, right wing-back kind of ting. And if you look at, this right centre-back, right wing-back kind of ting, that is the exact locations on the pitch that would match Chelsea's needs in that. Now, Mukiele, I remember him, if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, you must excuse me, but I remember him having a good card on FIFA, if memory serves. PSG want him. Luis Campos wants him. Generally means he's a good player. Like I said, he's 24 years old. Chelsea trying to include Timo Werner into the deal. If he's worth 18 million, essentially what we'd be doing here, which actually, if he is a good player, this guy, and I defer to some of your superior knowledge with Bundesliga football, so do comment down below and let me know what you think of this player. But if we send Timo Werner to RB Leipzig and get back this defender and some money, that sounds like a good deal. That sounds like a good deal. What do you think? To me, that sounds alluring. To me, that sounds somewhat sensible. And, to be fair, so far the transfer window for Chelsea has been sensible, despite the confusing sagas So let's move on and talk about a confusing saga. Jules Koundé to Chelsea. Fabrizio Romano last night publishing a video on his YouTube channel talking about said saga, giving an update saying, look, Barcelona have intercepted the deal, and although Sevilla are publicly, well not publicly, but their sources to the journalists are saying no, there's been no negotiation with Barcelona. That may well be true. Barcelona are preparing a formal offer for Jules Koundé, but what one piece of information that Fabrizio Romano has reiterated over and over is that Xavi's called up Jules Koundé multiple times. And Xavi's pushing for the signing of Jules Koundé to Barcelona. And Xavi, he is now convinced Jules Koundé to join Barcelona and agree personal terms. Does that mean it's done? No. But Barcelona certainly feel like he's more likely to join them at this point. But why wouldn't they think that? But then again, they've thought that with Rafinha. One thing that Fabrizio Romano said in this video is, this isn't the same as Rafinha, because Rafinha just wasn't interested in joining Chelsea. It was like, if he had to, he would probably consider it, but he never wanted to. He wanted to join Barcelona. Jules Koundé has agreed personal terms with Chelsea a year ago to join Chelsea a year ago. He wanted to join. He was annoyed. He publicly had talked about in the media how he was annoyed, how his move to Chelsea didn't go through. So he wants the move to Chelsea. Of course, to repeat stuff we said in the last video, there's speculation that he could be frustrated that he was pushed down on Chelsea's priority list when, Ake and De Ligt weren't available. Then they went back to him. Maybe he's thinking, well, I've always been first choice for Barcelona. You've made me third choice. I don't feel loved here. They've offered me good personal terms to play at, what seems like an exciting project in La Liga, if not perhaps financially dubious moving forwards in the future. That is interesting, but he's convinced to go. Look, again, I have said it before, I'll say it again. Excuse me, I won't cry for Jules Koundé, as I won't for Rafinha. They're not like the blockbuster signings that I always wanted, but I appreciate how they're club targets. And it's frustrating to lose out of them, especially as there's a recurring theme with Barcelona, whereas our transfer windows are intrinsically linked. But who knows? Maybe they're not signing. Barcelona signed Jules Koundé for £55 million. We sign Mukiele, or how you pronounce it, for very little and make peas on top by sending Timo Werner the other way. That could happen. Now, in terms of outgoings, Thomas Tuchel has spoken about how other players want to go. Darren Lewis of the Mirror saying Ziyech wants to go to Milan, Alonso and Azpilicueta want to go to Barcelona, Werner wants to go and get regular team football, which is kind of what we're talking about there, with maybe him going back to RB Leipzig, where he played so well, though he did seem like he was quite keen to get out of RB Leipzig. Remember the season before he joined Chelsea, he had agreed personal terms with Bayern Munich, and he had said goodbye to his Leipzig teammates. Like, I'm off to Bayern, mate. I'm off to do my thing. And when the move didn't happen, they said you have to wait for one more year. And this story is legit. It comes from Raphael Honigstein, a really good German Bundesliga reporter. He got really emotionally hurt by Bayern Munich messing him around. So he was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to wait another year. Instead, I'm going to go to the Premier League because both Liverpool and Chelsea want to buy me. End up Chelsea triggered his release clause. He went to Chelsea, and of course, the rest is history. So it's interesting to hear him maybe wanting to go back to RB Leipzig, especially when Julian Nagelsmann is no longer there. He's at Bayern Munich, which is interesting. So we don't know necessarily if Werner wants to go back to Leipzig, but he wants to go for regular first-team football. Darren's also saying here Pulisic wants to go. How sure of that I am, I'm not so sure. We'll have to see what happens there. And our American ownership, will they be inclined to sell Captain America? Again, that is something that we are not so sure about. But there are outgoings. Thomas Tuchel is angry. Fabrizio Romano saying Chelsea will be really busy in the transfer market. Thomas Tuchel knows how important outgoings are on the final day. He wants at least an additional 3 signings, at least, to add to the 2. So that would make 5, of course, on top of outgoings as well. Another thing that Fabrizio Romano has said is that he wants attackers. So at least another attacker in. That's assuming that perhaps because two more could go. We've had Romelu Lukaku go. By the way, there is a report on Romelu Lukaku that Chelsea have already agreed in principle with Inter that he could have a second-year loan before he's even kicked a ball there in the first-year loan. This is how much Chelsea have washed their hands of Romelu Lukaku. So, excuse me, that is it's pretty much the end there. That will probably come as positive news to some of you. But so there's Lukaku's out the door. It does look like Ziyech will be out the door, and maybe Timo Werner as well. So that's 3 out. You could argue we had maybe too many. 1 in Raheem Sterling, which is a very good acquisition, and then at least 1 more attacker in, and then who knows? Perhaps that third attacker could be Armando Broja, which is another interesting story that I want to reference today. And Ben Jacobs has been giving updates on Levi Colwill and Armando Broja. He said Levi Colwill ideally wants to remain at Chelsea. Now, this comes, of course, in the midst of big fanfare, Chelsea debates that, you know, these youngsters just don't want to go. They don't want to fight for their place. And, you know, Levi Colwill won's loan in the Championship and he's demanding to get into a recently winning Champions League side, etc., etc. But perhaps that's not the truth. So this is an update on that. Levi Colwill ideally does want to remain at Chelsea, and he's not trying to force a permanent exit. That's been reiterated a couple of times by Ben Jacobs, that he just wants to know what's going on. You know, he wants to play first-team football. He has been playing very well at the in the Championship. You know, playoff final. That is a high level of the Championship, and it's very similar to the Premier League in some ways. He's not trying to force a permanent exit. Armando Broja is being a bit more bullish. More talks with the club will be held once Chelsea return from America, which they have or are imminently. So he's being a bit more bullish and perhaps pushing for a move. Of course, he's led the line for Southampton. He knows West Ham are in for him, making a very serious and important bid. West Ham, of course, play in Europe. I don't know if he will start instead of Antonio or, excuse me, alongside Antonio. If they say, look, you'll be our starting striker for a European top 6 Premier League team, he probably, and you know that, and you get to stay in London, that probably is very, very alluring. You can imagine they'd be offering him quite high wages as well. So he might be thinking, yes, please. But many of you have noted, certainly on social media, and I imagine in the comments as well on these videos, that now is the best time ever to try and fight for that centre forward spot. Chelsea don't really have a natural, conventional number 9. They have Kai Havertz, who's a very talented player, but, you know, he's like the rest of the attackers, suffering from a lack of cohesion, and he really isn't like a conventional number 9. So really, you know, Armando Broja should be identifying this situation as the perfect opportunity for him to muscle his way in and, you know, use this season to try and get in loads and loads of minutes in Thomas Tuchel's side. So that's probably how he should be looking at it, Armando Broja. Being a bit more bullish, as we say. If Chelsea sell, then they sell. Maybe we end up buying a centre forward. If Broja goes, for me, Chelsea buy a centre forward. They don't buy Romelu Lukaku. They don't sign Cristiano Ronaldo. They do probably buy a more like mobile, you know, forward. I imagine they would have really liked a sort of Gabriel Jesus kind of player to go with Sterling, but obviously he's gone to Arsenal and he'll probably do very well there. Personally, I do think Chelsea will sign a centre forward if Armando Broja goes to West Ham or indeed any other club. So, what do you think, man? Comment down below. I'm keen to hear your thoughts, feelings, and reactions on the stories that are being presented in today's video. Please do consider dropping like and subscribing if you're new. I'm very keen to see what you guys are saying to each other down in the comment section below. So, be respectful and conversational. And yeah, of course, if any news pops off, I will react to it here. So turn on that sweet, sweet bell, baby. See you soon. Peace.